Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're diving deep into Bared to You by Sylvia Day. We've got excerpts from the first 12 chapters, 15 through 22, and the book club guide.
Wow, quite a bit of material.
It is. And this story, let me tell you, it just pulls you right in. From that very first encounter in the lobby.
Oh, yeah.
To all the twists and turns that come after.
So what are we kind of trying to accomplish with this deep dive?
Well, I thought we could take a look at the characters, their relationships, and kind of those themes that really make it Bared to You such a captivating read.
You know what really stands out to me, even just from these early chapters, is just how Sylvia Day, she creates this world that's so fast-paced and high stakes. You know, we're in New York City, corporate offices, luxurious apartments. It's all very glamorous and exciting.
Yeah, you really get that sense that Eva's, she's trying to make a fresh start. She's coming from a difficult past.
Mm-hmm.
And she's really determined to prove herself. But at the same time, she's carrying, all this baggage.
Yeah, right. And then you have Gideon, who is this powerful, magnetic, enigmatic businessman. But even he is haunted by his past. We see these hints of it, especially through those vivid nightmares that Day describes.
So we've got Eva and Gideon, both carrying the weight of their pasts. And then they have this explosive, instant chemistry that kind of sets the stage for this passionate and at times really unconventional relationship.
Right. From that very first meeting, you can tell that their connection it's electric.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not just physical. There's this underlying sense that they see something in each other, that they recognize a shared vulnerability.
Which is interesting because they're very guarded. They're used to keeping people at a distance.
Right. Especially Gideon. I mean, he's so used to being in control. He's dominant, almost obsessively so. Yeah. But it's clear that need for control, it stems from his past traumas.
Which we see glimpses of in those nightmares. His father's suicide, his difficult relationship with his family. All these experiences have shaped him.
It's almost like he's trying to create this world where he's safe, where nothing can hurt him again.
Makes sense.
And Eva, she's drawn to his strength, but she's also wary of his controlling nature, especially given her own past experiences with abuse.
I think that's what makes their relationship so compelling. It's this constant push and pull between desire and resistance.
Exactly. And then you have Carrie, Eva's best friend and roommate, who adds this wonderful layer of humor and support to the story.
Carrie is great. He's so insightful, and he's not afraid to call Eva out when she needs it.
He's definitely a voice of reason in all the chaos.
And what's interesting is that Day doesn't just use the supporting characters to kind of provide comic relief or just be there for Eva. They each have their own complexities, and they bring in these additional layers of conflict and intrigue.
Like Mark Garrity, Eva's boss. He's understanding and supportive, but he also represents that demanding corporate world that Eva's trying to navigate.
Right. And then you have Richard Stanton, Eva's stepfather, who brings in these complicated family dynamics and even raises questions about control and manipulation, which kind of mirror what Eva is experiencing with Gideon.
So it's not just a romance. It's about navigating all these different relationships and trying to find your place in the world while also dealing with the scars of the past.
Absolutely. And then there's the mysterious Magdalene Perez, this figure from Gideon's past, who seems to stir up a lot of jealousy and tension.
Oh, yeah. She definitely adds to the drama.
Day is really good at weaving all these characters and their backstories into this intricate web of relationships that just keeps you guessing.
It's like every encounter, every conversation peels back another layer of who these characters really are.
And the book club guide, it really encourages us to dig deeper into those layers. Like one question that caught my eye was, how do Eva and Gideon's past shape their present actions and create obstacles to intimacy?
That's a great question because it's clear that their past traumas are influencing everything about how they approach love, trust, vulnerability.
Especially with Gideon's need for control and Eva's struggle to let go of her guard.
Right. It's like they're both drawn to the strength they see in each other, but they're also terrified of being hurt again.
Which makes their relationship both passionate and volatile.
Definitely a recipe for some serious fireworks.
And that's just the beginning. I can't wait to see how their story unfolds.
Me too. There's so much more to explore, and we'll be diving into all of it in our next segment.
Looking forward to it.
Stay tuned. All right, so we're back and ready to dive even deeper into Bared to You.
Yeah, I'm excited to unpack some of these more intense moments.
Definitely. And I think we have to start by talking more about Gideon.
Oh, absolutely. He's such a complex character. On the one hand, he's this alpha male. He's rich, He's powerful. He exudes this aura of control.
Right, but then there are these glimpses of vulnerability.
Exactly. Like, remember those piercing blue eyes that Day describes? They're intense, but there's also this hint of sadness.
Almost like a wounded soul.
Yeah, and then there's that scene where he proposes to Eva in the elevator. Oh my gosh, that was so unexpected.
Right, like who does that?
Seriously.
But it also shows that he's not afraid to be direct, to go after what he wants.
Even if it means breaking all the rules.
Which is kind of a recurring theme with Gideon.
Definitely, and I think it's important to remember that his need for control, it stems from his past traumas.
Oh, absolutely. Those nightmares that he experiences, they give us such a raw look at the pain he's carrying.
It's heartbreaking to see those glimpses of the scared little boy hiding beneath this facade of the powerful man.
And it makes you realize that his dominance, it's not just about power. It's a way of protecting himself, of trying to control his environment.
To create this sense of order in a world that feels chaotic.
Exactly.
And Eva, she's also dealing with her own demons from past abuse.
That encounter with her stepbrother Nathan, it clearly left deep emotional scars.
And it affects every aspect of her life, especially her relationships with men.
So when she meets Gideon, with all his intensity and dominance, it both attracts and repels her. Yeah, it's this constant push and pull between wanting to surrender to him and needing to maintain her own sense of control.
It's a delicate dance.
And then there's that scene where Gideon walks in on Eva and Carrie during a nightmare.
Oh man, that was intense.
Talk about a trigger for both of them.
It just shows how their past traumas can really sabotage their present happiness.
Absolutely, and it highlights the importance of communication.
Yeah.
Something that they both struggle with.
Gideon tends to keep his emotions bottled up.
While Eva has a hard time articulating her needs and fears.
It creates this underlying tension.
It makes you wonder if they can ever truly overcome these obstacles to intimacy.
Right.
But thankfully, they have Carrie.
Carrie is the best.
He's always there for Eva, with a listening ear and some sage advice.
And he doesn't sugarcoat things. He tells her what she needs to hear.
And it's Carrie who suggests couples therapy.
Which, to Gideon's credit, he agrees to.
Yeah, that was a big step for him. A man who's so used to handling everything on his own.
It shows that he's willing to at least try to confront his vulnerabilities.
And to do what it takes to make the relationship work.
But of course, just when you think things might be moving in the right direction, Day throws another wrench into the works.
Enter Corinne, Gideon's former fiancée.
Oh yeah, she definitely shakes things up.
It's one thing to deal with past traumas, but to have this very real threat to your present happiness, that's a whole other level of complication.
And Eva's reaction is completely understandable. I mean, she's finally allowed herself to fall for Gideon, and then this woman from his past just appears out of nowhere.
It's like all her insecurities come rushing back.
But what's interesting is that Day doesn't portray Corinne as a villain.
Right, she's not just some evil ex.
She's a woman who made a mistake, who lost something precious, and now she's trying to get it back.
So you can empathize with her heartbreak, while also understanding Eva's jealousy and fear.
And Gideon is caught in the middle, trying to navigate his feelings for both women.
While also dealing with the ghosts of his past relationship with Corinne.
Talk about a recipe for drama.
Right. And then you have that explosive confrontation in the limo between Eva and Gideon.
Oh yeah, that scene was intense.
It just shows how high the stakes are for both of them.
And how their communication breakdown can lead to these huge misunderstandings.
Gideon, with his need for control, struggles to understand Eva's need for reassurance.
And Eva, on the other hand, is trying to balance her love for Gideon with the fear that he might ultimately choose Corinne.
It's this classic love triangle, but with the depth and emotional honesty. That really elevates it beyond the typical tropes.
Absolutely, and it underscores a theme that runs throughout the story, the importance of communication.
Without it, relationships crumble.
Exactly.
And that's where Day leaves us at the end of these excerpts, with Eva and Gideon at a crossroads. Their love is undeniable, but their baggage and Corinne's presence threaten everything they've built.
It's a real cliffhanger. Makes you want to keep reading to see what happens next.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the characters and their relationships.
Yeah, we've really gotten to know Eva and Gideon.
But there's another element to bear to you that I think is worth exploring, and that's the setting.
New York City.
Exactly. Day doesn't just use it as a backdrop. It's almost like the city itself is another character in the story.
Oh, I totally see that. That fast-paced, high-energy vibe, it really mirrors the intensity of Eva and Gideon's relationship.
Right, and there's this contrast between the luxurious world that Gideon inhabits, those penthouses, those exclusive clubs.
Right, all that wealth and glamour.
And then you have Eva, who's new to the city. She's trying to find her place. She's working hard. She's living in a more modest apartment.
It's like two different worlds colliding.
Exactly. And Day does a great job of highlighting both the allure and the grittiness of New York.
Like that scene in Parker's Krav Maga studio.
Oh, yeah. That was great contrast to the polished world of Gideon's office.
And it shows that even though Gideon has all this money and power, he still has this need to push himself physically, to test his limits.
It's almost like he's trying to escape something.
Maybe those inner demons. And then you have those steamy encounters in the back of Gideon's limo.
Oh, yeah. Those are definitely memorable.
Talk about making the most of your commute.
Seriously.
But it also shows that their passion, it can erupt anywhere, anytime.
And that's part of what makes their relationship so exciting. It's this constant tension and release.
I think the book club guide raises some really interesting questions about the nature of their connection. Like, one that stood out to me was, given the intensity of their connection and the challenges they face, can Eva and Gideon ultimately find a balance between their desires and their need for healing?
That's a big one. Because it's clear that they both have a lot of baggage.
Yeah.
And they're both drawn to each other's strength.
But they're also afraid of being vulnerable.
And then there's the whole dominant-submissive dynamic.
Which adds a whole other layer of complexity.
It makes you think about control, consent, and what constitutes a healthy relationship.
Right, it's not your typical romance.
Definitely not. But I think that's what makes it so compelling. It's raw, it's honest, it's messy.
And it doesn't shy away from the difficult questions.
Exactly. And ultimately, I think it's a story about two broken people trying to find their way back to wholeness.
And maybe finding love along the way.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today.
Yeah, from the characters to the setting to the themes.
We've explored the complexities of Eva and Gideon's relationship.
And the challenges they face as individuals and as a couple.
But as with any deep dive, we've only scratched the surface. There's so much more to discover and bared to you.
I think we've given our listeners a good starting point, though.
I hope so. And if you're intrigued by what you've heard today, I encourage you to pick up the book and dive in yourself.
It's definitely a wild ride.
So until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those pages turning.